Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind, of course, and I am joined by a new guest, Goose, Hoop Goose, of course, on Twitter. I will leave his information down below in the description and all that jazz. But let's get into it. The Raptors drafted Dick, or as I like to call him, Grady Richard. So
That's good.
keep it clean, and family friendly on the show sometimes. With that being said, before we get into the pick, from a Raptors perspective, were you happy with the draft overall, or you don't have to give a grade, but like, were you basically
I,
satisfied?
I have been smiling ear to ear since the draft because Grady is the guy that I wanted most. Just like I don't know, like from February, I was like, man, this guy is perfect for the Raptors, and that's the guy they got. Like, if like at 13, I was pretty amazed that he was even there because I would have started thinking about him like even if they had like a top five pick. So yeah, at 13, just smiling ear to ear, just love the draft. Been very happy.
Absolutely. I mean, every single time I either did a mock draft or saw a mock draft with people, I always just saw him going, much earlier. So, and I'm shocked even like the Magic. I'm like, are they going to take Grady Dick? And then, I mean, of course, shouts to Jet Howard. I think his
Yeah.
entire family. I said this to I was in a bar with Beyond and Coach Roach, but his family did like the Tiger Woods, winning the
Yeah.
Masters, like
Yeah.
yes, so
Man.
that was beautiful to see, and of course we got Grady Dick. So I guess in terms of the draft overall, what was your biggest surprise in the first, like within the lottery, and then like I guess after the lottery?
Well, the biggest one, I think everybody would say it's just Cam Whitmore is just falling out of the lottery. And, I
Yeah.
wasn't the biggest Cam fan, but I was really surprised that he went like 20th. Like you had guys like Jamie Jacquez over him. And like, I was like, damn, I would not have, I would not have guessed that at all.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Cam Whitmore is I kept seeing him and I'm like, I think he's going to slide. I didn't think he was going to slide that much.
Yeah.
He he was an interesting prospect because it's like you wonder what the medical records are. He relies a lot on his physicality and he needs to learn
Hmm.
more of the finesse game. And I wonder how much of that is there. Obviously there's things that we will never be privy to. But I am happy because I did when I talked to Mac, I said he would be a good choice for the Rockets. So he ended up on the
Yeah,
Rockets, which worked
that's
out.
great.
And then for me, the Utah Jazz got a lot of the players that I wanted them to get, but not in the
Yeah.
order. I said like I'm like Keontae George would be a good pick for them. Got the Keontae George, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. So yeah. Before we get again, just to stretch out the conversation a bit more before we get into Grady talk, I think the interesting thing was about the broadcast. I talked to you right before we got on here. Um, I found it kind of weird. I don't know about you that Woj is like I'm not going to be on Twitter yet. They're showing kids on their phones.
Yeah.
For
Uh,
you, what did you think of that?
I didn't like that, but I get why they were showing it. It's because it's just nice to see all the smiles. But like they showed
Yes.
it like for a Brandon Miller, and like I was like, oh man, he's a pick, isn't he? And then yeah, it was him, and I was like, dang. It's like
I
I don't know.
mean,
It's kind of spoiling it, but I feel like the NBA takes too long to announce it anyway. So it's kind of like 50-50 for me.
definitely. Well, I think someone in their broadcast studio definitely, caught wind because you
Yeah.
notice after like I think a SAR, it stopped, right?
Yeah.
Like which is really interesting. And you're like, wait a minute, like there's, so I think that
It's
was
too
good.
easy.
Yes. In terms of your other point, you said like they make them wait too long. And it's funny because I'm thinking like, okay, so are the Spurs really gonna wait all 3 minutes or whatever to like announce that like you see like Wemby's like, okay, like come on,
I,
or
I was talking to one of my friends who works for an NBA agency,
Mhm.
and he said that whenever like it doesn't matter how quickly you send in the pick, the NBA is just gonna wait the whole time. So even if the Spurs are like, yeah, it's Wemby, everyone knows it's Wemby, they're like, okay, you still gotta wait. It's just I don't know, maybe they're padding the broadcast or whatever like their schedule is, but yeah, that's what it is.
There's definitely a little bit of for that for sure. I mean, I remember last year I watched the lottery go down, and it was just like all of a sudden I'm like, wait, this guy's flipping the cards a little quickly, right? I'm like,
I love that, but just get it over with, like rip my heart out.
yes, 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 exactly. This year, I think they stretch it out a little bit longer, but yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I guess my thing in terms of the draft, I wish that we got into the draft later on because when I saw Maxwell Lewis, Leonard Miller fall to where they were falling, I was like, although I know the Spurs have our pick,
Yeah.
so maybe we're
don't,
done.
don't get
Please
me
no more,
started on that.
no more. Yeah, yeah, I think we need to block their number for the time being for now. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was my only thing is I wish we got into the draft and got like a second pick or something. I do think that the Lakers there might be something there because they seemingly got the guys that especially with Maxwell Lewis and a point guard. It's interesting because you know they do have an agent there, or sorry, I should say LeBron, that has a couple of players on our team for his agency. So yeah.
Yes, sir.
So to go into the man, the myth, the legend, the man with the I think the Dolce and Gabbana suit, which shouts to him. Grady, what do you think of Grady Dick? Because I'll tell you right now, I think that he was arguably the best shooter of the draft. I know a lot of people were a little bit disappointed initially, because I think a lot of people outside of the point guards wanted maybe Hawkins. So I don't know if you want to speak to him versus Hawkins on the offensive side of the ball.
Sure. Yeah. I would say Grady is the best shooter in the class. I think the other guy that I felt was under discussed, just in terms of being that good as a shooter, was Brice. You mentioned Utah, and like he went over there, but this is a Grady pod. So, speaking of Grady versus Hawkins, man, I think Grady is. I mean, Hawkins is an amazing shooter in his own right. I think he's a little better than Grady, just coming off movement and whatnot. But I think what separates Grady as a shooter is just his feel, just in terms of how he reads the court and how quickly he reads the court. Is just for Hawkins, you need to run plays for him. You need to run like motion sets. You need to run, the pin downs and whatnot. And you can run those for Grady too, but if you don't run those for Grady, he's still gonna find his shots. He's still gonna find like spaces in the defense. He's gonna find just ways to just impact the game. And I feel like Hawkins was not as good in that particular skill. Just after like, if the initial action didn't work, like, oh, maybe he didn't relocate quickly enough, or he didn't relocate to the right spot. Where Grady is just, I think he's one of the best that I've ever seen at just that particular skill.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, he's the first one and done shooter to ever come out of the draft. I think I could be wrong if you have anyone in mind, but because if you look back in history, there's not like guys like Ray Allen or whatever. Those guys stayed in college a lot
Yeah.
longer, and so yeah.
I mean, there was Aaron Naismith, which is funny because he played like half the season and he was this shooter, and now he's just this like athletic closeout attacker. So it's kind
Right.
of funny how you develop sometimes. But yeah,
Was Neesmith one and done?
I think he was a one and done. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
But yeah, no, he's another one. I also know that I think for Neesmith, he is able to join Grady with the 40 and 5 club, where 40% shooting on 5 attempts. I think in his specific class, another person that, well, his teammate Halliburton, and I
Yeah,
think I want to say Desmond Bain also was in that club as well.
I think so. Yeah.
All really good shooters in the NBA. But now we got one. We do have one,
Yep,
so
we
which
got
is
one.
good. So yeah, in terms of Jordan Hawkins, I think. Well, actually, sorry, I won't talk about Jordan Hawkins. But you made a comment about Brice Sensabaugh. I agree. So I was on here with Coach just to give him a little bit of shine. And the thing about Sensabaugh is both of us first commented and said he is a walking bucket.
Yes.
And so
No,
yeah, Like, don't worry, it's a basketball rewind podcast, so it's not just Raptors. Even though, yes, I am a
Okay.
Raptors fan, people. But yeah, I know Sensabaugh was high up on your board.
Yes.
So really quickly, just about Sensabaugh, is there something that you wish? Would you have taken him over Gradey Dick? Because again, outside of, I think that my concerns were mainly like, I think he needed to drop a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Um, but were there any concerns, or you're just like Gradey all the way?
I don't think I would have taken him over Grady, but in terms of just the options at 13, he was on my short list. Like I just love Brice's game. I know there's a lot to improve on defensively, but just offensively, I think he's like really special. And just in terms of like, I don't know how you can like let a guy with like that kind of star potential drop to like the late first, but it
I
happens all the
mean,
time, I guess.
he's like what, like a 50, 40, 90 guy basically on like a
It's
Luca's
crazy.
usage, which is I'm like I've never ever seen that
He's
before.
he's 19 years old taking Kevin Durant shots and making them at Kevin Durant percentages. Like I know
Yes.
he's a bit oddly shaped, but I feel like you shouldn't let aesthetics affect too much of
Oh, I love
the
it. I
game.
love
Yeah,
it. He's going to be one heck of a player. And
I
again,
sure hope so.
I'll ask you the same question, but I'll answer it for myself first. Is that I think Utah actually had the best draft. Like,
I can see that. I can see
like
that.
they did not have a bad draft at all. So yeah. Going back to Grady, I think uh everyone's going to ask about the defense. Now, I
Yeah,
graded him as an average to above average defender. I think that that's how his game translate at an NBA level. You can tell me if I'm
yeah.
being fair or not. I think his hands are actually pretty solid, and his foot speed is not as big of a concern. But and obviously he has the length, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what is your take on him specifically?
I think the defense I would agree with you is that he'll at least be solid, if not a little bit above average. It's
Mm.
just because I think people kind of I don't know because he's like a goofy looking white guy, so they're like, oh, he can't defend, but like he knows what he's doing. His feet aren't great. Like I know he didn't do too well at the combines, like the
Yeah.
athletic testing there,
Yeah.
and yeah, on tape he's not a great mover just laterally like that, and like I think the biggest issue with him was just screen navigation at Kansas, but. It, he is big enough that he'll be able to just switch most screens, and he's pretty young now. He's 19. Most rookies are bad on defense. He'll probably be bad for like the first season or so too, but once he puts on some pounds, I think he'll be able to just keep up with anyone that's not like Dame or Kyrie or whatever, and be able to take some contact. And I love what you said about the hands. I think arguably he might have the best hands in this draft class. It's just he has all those Fred Van Vliet plays where he's just able to just always get at the ball, and like no matter where he is, or if he's like slightly out of position, or if he's under the basket, he's still able to tip it out and get those Fred Van Vliet blocks, which I know Fred hates because he just wants to be the steals leader. But yeah, Grady has that same quality to him. And the other thing is that off ball, he is just really, really good at just filling up gaps, and I think that in the Raptor system will be really good, actually. It's just being aware of it's kind of like a skill that he has on both ends of the court is being able to just read like the defense, like reading five guys at once. Yeah. So he can do that on offense and he can do that on defense. So he's able to fill up the gaps. He's able to be in the right spots, make the right rotations. He had a couple rough games in the beginning of the year at Kansas, but by the end of the year, I thought he was really, really good just being that guy.
Yeah, I think his situational awareness on the defensive end is pretty top tier. The one thing, this is like kind of like me telling on myself a bit, is that like for those games, for whatever reason, I watch them on mute. And so okay, usually I do watch games not on mute,
I,
by the
I
way.
do that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's,
I'm like, I can't tell if he's like a communicator, and also I feel like our broadcast is really good with the sound in terms of Raptors
mhm.
games. So like you
Yeah.
can tell when people like when Marc Gasol got here, he like you could hear him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a good communicator or not, so that's one thing that I need to like kind of go back to the film and like.
I would say he is. Yeah. He's aware. He knows what's going on. He's pointing it out to his teammates. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so for me, like when I look at guys in college. That's one of the things that I look for like because it's hard to, some of them play in schemes that are just purely zone or purely like one
Yeah.
thing or another, and like communication to me is like one of the like secret sauces of defense, I think. Because obviously the worst thing that you can say on defense, to quote Coach Roach, is help. But he's right,
That's
right?
good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah. I did see some people kind of shred him a little bit by saying he's a bad pick and roll defender or point of attack, but I don't think on this team you need that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Darko would task him with that type of task on
Yeah.
this roster. So yeah. The other thing is that I'm wondering because I saw, like you said, he made good reads on the defensive end, also on the offensive end. I noticed that sometimes, I mean, it wasn't like he was the dude making like he's not like an primary offensive initiator, but
Yeah.
I did again. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I did seem to see that there might be flashes of secondary creation. I'm just wondering, like, yeah, do you think that he can be not not trying to call everyone a connective tissue passer because I'm not going to call him that, and I think that's like a buzzword now. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this secondary creation?
He's got a little bit of like a stutter game to him where he has like these stutter steps and like there's a highlight, I think it was against Texas, where he just like absolutely broke someone's ankles doing that. And yeah, he's able to just do that and get to the rim or like get into like a one dribble pull up just either from three or in the mid range just after that. Like I don't think his secondary game is that advanced just yet, but in terms
Yeah,
of being like the fourth or like third guy on offense, maybe he should be able to do that relatively quickly.
yeah. I mean, to me, yeah, I think within a 2 year span, and I always tell
Yeah.
people like when you're talking about impact, it's the dude is a rookie. Like
Yeah.
even like unless you are literally like LeBron James,
Yeah.
there are a few rookies that are gonna, or I guess shouts to Tim Duncan, shouts to Magic, of course, but even them, they had like like Magic had like
The
James,
end. Yeah,
like
the NBA is hard, man. The NBA is hard. It takes time to adjust. People should give him some. I think it takes like around 50 games for a rookie to just like settle into who they want to be just
yes,
in their first year. Like you look at elite guys like Anthony Edwards, like he was pretty stinky his first 50 games or so, but after that he figured it out. So yeah, if people are having expectations of him being like Clay Thompson from day one, I would say that just calm down. He's a rookie. There's gonna be mistakes. There's gonna be some great moments, some not so good moments. You just gotta power through it.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, you don't want to. This is something I keep trying to tell people. Is like you don't want to like you. I'm not saying don't have expectations, people, but at the same time, like maybe like keep them like
Reasonable,
tempered.
reasonable. Yeah,
Right? Like it's okay to be like the guy is a rookie, he's a young man. He's 19 years old. I think he might be. Did he? Is he turning 20 soon? Or anyways, he's a
I don't.
young kid,
He's
yeah,
a kid.
essentially,
Yeah,
and you don't want to lump too many expectations. What's interesting to me is that it doesn't necessarily this pick address something that we is looming, which is which direction, because he kind of works with like between the Pascal and Scotty type thing. He kind of works for both,
yeah,
which is really interesting. I don't mind it because I'm like, well, you know what? Like, even if they make a half pivot, like it's not the worst thing to, actually surround, both of those guys with more shooting. And also the thing that I love about him is again he moves the ball.
yeah.
That's not always been the case. Just throughout the NBA and that sort of thing. I'm not gonna name names today. Um, yeah. And so I guess my thing is that uh, you told me right before this that you're more team, maybe not blow it up, but like at least going in a completely different direction. I guess hypothetically, if you were to move, it'd be Pascal.
Yeah.
What would be ignoring who's coming back.
Yeah.
What's your dream? Like, what's a lineup that you think that would be interesting to see?
Without Pascal. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. So I think since we don't have our pick next year, I wouldn't like blow it up completely. And
I
I
feel
don't know
that.
if yeah, yeah. I don't know if I've ever been a fan of just blowing it up completely, but I do think the team just kind of needs like a little restructure. And I think trading Pascal is probably like the easiest way to do that, just in terms of you'd get a lot back and it open up a lot for Scotty and a little bit for OG, just in terms of like being able to expand their game more and just having Pascal's awesome and he's clearly the best player on this team, but just having more space for them to grow, kind of having the lineups work a little bit better just because of the lack of shooting. That's not Pascal's fault, but it's kind of just how the roster has shaken out.
Yeah.
So in terms of just lineups without him, it would be, it'd be more Scotty focused. I think that's what you have to pivot towards anyway, because I don't think this team is going anywhere without a Scotty leap of some sort. So yeah, it would be put the ball in Scotty's hands, let him be a playmaker. I don't think he's gonna be like this huge scorer, but if he can do like something like what Sabonis does or what Bam does in terms of being that offensive engine, just not as like a huge like he's not gonna average 30. I don't maybe he'll do it one day, but as much as we've seen from Scotty so far, that's not exactly in his wheelhouse just yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, it would be give the ball to Scotty, surround him with shooting and cutting, and run the ball in transition, and just have fun. Like have fun watching basketball again. Like you had Masai Ujiri saying we didn't have fun this season, and
No.
I think that's what the one thing that fans want is just a fun basketball team.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot to unpack there, but I'll
Yeah,
say
sorry, I
no,
went
no,
on a
no,
rant.
no. This is good. This is good. I think from a Scotty standpoint, yeah, like especially his open court reads are I mean, you know what? People shred me in the comments. I think he's top five in the NBA. Like I think he's that good. Like at
Yeah,
this age, like within his
exactly.
age group, I haven't seen many guys that are better.
He slept on, man. He
He
slept on.
really is. Like it's funny because people think I'm not like a Scotty guy, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
I'm actually both like a Scotty and a Pascal dude. But like I just like Scotty is really good. His half court needs work. But
yeah,
if he's gonna be a point guard, that's probably one of the most difficult outside of the center spot to like
yeah,
really learn in the NBA. So I always said like a while ago, I'm like, it's gonna take him at least 2 years to learn how to shoot minimum. And then I'm like, it's gonna take, and even when he let's say he shoots this year, it still takes guys like a year to be respected.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because it's
yeah,
like you can shoot, which last year he didn't have that jump in that area. But then now it's like, okay, but are you respected? Because like yeah, even Ben Simmons shows the summer three or whatever. It's like show me what
yeah.
you can actually do. So from that standpoint, yeah. Um, I think Grady is really interesting because there's a lot that you could do with him. One of my dream lineups is actually with Barnes. So it's Barnes, Grady, Siakam. You're gonna hate this because it's Vision 6'9". Um, Otto Porter, the Forgotten Man, and OG.
Yeah,
I think that would be really. I almost wish that like
interesting.
we had like a summer tournament so we could see these
Yeah,
things.
Rico Hines runs.
Yeah, Rico Hines runs. Because yeah, like I really do think that there's something there when you can draw in a lot of gravity and then kick it out to guys who can also move it and also move themselves.
That's right.
So that's something that's interesting. Okay, so in terms of, I know we're kind of going quickly through this. You mentioned Sabonis, and that's an interesting idea. I guess for Scotty, because one of the things that I noticed is that Sabonis struggled in he
In the
struggled
playoffs.
in that region. Um, Now I think it's funny because Scotty, when he's challenged like that or almost like dared like that, like in the Milwaukee game, this past season
Man,
where they
I
you
love
know
that game.
it was a good game
It
because
was a great
it's
game.
like I don't know what
No,
it is. Sorry, you go
I
for it.
was sorry. I was watching the Kings Warriors series, and it was a great series. But yeah,
Yes,
they were playing off Sabonis like a lot. Like it was like 10, 15 feet of just space. And
yes,
Sabonis just wasn't doing anything with it. And I was like, Scotty's not there yet, but
no, yeah,
he would never just like let that go to waste. Like
yes,
he's a little bit more athletic than Domas is, but like he'd be able to just like he has a bit of mid range in his bag. It's not as efficient as you'd want yet, but I think it's pretty encouraging, and he'd be able to just take those shots or just bully his way to the rim. Like you can't give Scotty that much of a runway because he would be really hard to guard. And that Bucks game that you mentioned, that was one of my favorite games of the season because Scotty was just putting Brook Lopez under the rim, and I was like, man, if you can put Brook Lopez under the rim, there is nobody who can stop you.
no.
Like there's not a lot of
Maybe
players.
Steven Adams, maybe
Yeah,
Steven Adams, because
yeah,
that's
exactly.
I remember that the game against Memphis where Steven Adams literally like had one Raptors player and another and was like this, and I'm like,
Oh
this
man,
dude had like three dudes like hanging off of him and was still grabbing rebounds. That was embarrassing, by the way. But outside of that game, the Bucks game to me it was a very good game. Not my favorite game this season, but it was a good game because I was like, this kid has a switch, and I don't know how. Like, Darko, please figure out what the switch is and tape it on. But there's some switch in him, and when that
absolutely.
switch is flipped, right? And this is why, like, it's like the fourth quarter Barnes is that like he's unbeatable.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what you have to do. I don't know your background, but some people in the Caribbean would say you need a bull pistol. Don't look that up if you don't know it. Um, but yeah, I just he's incredible. So, anyways, back to the man of the hour, Gradey. In terms, I guess my thing is that is there anything that we've missed so far about him specifically, and then I'll ask you, of course, about the other one, Marquis Nowell, of course.
All right. Have we missed anything about Brady? I feel like we covered him pretty well. Like I think what's interesting about him to me is just how like he knows he is a really really special shooter, and like not every player is like that. Like when Matt Thomas was here, he was pretty shy just in terms of taking shots. I feel like if you're gonna be a shooter, you gotta just let it fly. Like
His release, like, okay, so people were showing it's like, oh, Scotty's release is better, and it does, it looks more fluid and stuff like that, but then
I
you
have
see the
questions about
timing.
that.
Yeah, what that too, because of the speed and like the video and editing.
Those videos are sped up. I feel like
Yeah, okay, but even with them being sped up, right? It's just like
yeah,
you look at Grady's release, and I'm not trying, but like, okay, so here's a good comparison, right? And it's not a fair comparison, but yeah. So you look at Scotty's release, or you look at Chris Boucher's release, that's with the like I call him Trebuchet for the longest time,
yeah,
and it's like it like time it right, and then you look at Grady's release, and it's like
so quick.
that's an NBA release, and it's the same every single time. It
Beautiful.
is a beautiful chef's kiss, right?
Exactly.
So, so I guess my question is, I guess if we have Grady, we probably we could use his trainer and not have to sign on JJ Redick. But my question to you is just like how, like I can't even ask you how you get to that point, but like, yeah, do you think that Barnes can kind of like improve his release? I guess speed is probably the best way to put it because he has the like the point at which he releases is better. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I hopefully can release it. I need to see it in like a real setting. Like I can't fall for the summer workout videos. Like Amir Johnson already got me. It's it's not happening again.
Oh
Yeah,
man, shouts to,
but
I think, was he in the G League this year again? He's still
I I,
around.
I think he was like a mentor guy on Ignite. I'm not sure.
Nice.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure what he's up to, but
because
yeah,
he was there like two years during the Sky Draft. He was playing with like
yeah, he was with
Him and
Jalen and them.
Jarrett Jack, I think, two old
Yeah,
Raptors, and yeah,
Raptors legends.
shouts to them. So, Uh, so in terms of like beneficiaries of this new coach, of this new shooter that we have, who's someone that's sneaky that you think that's going to have a big year this year? That's like maybe going under the radar because I have a name in mind.
Oh, interesting. It could be Gary. I don't know if I posted this on Twitter. It was Gary was really really good at scoring off of handoffs, and he really didn't get those. I think there was like 1 month where we ran a lot of Scotty and Gary actions, and it was pretty good like in terms of just the stats, and I think the offensive rating like was pretty high just for that month. I know they stopped it when we got Pirtle, and the defense was really bad for like unrelated reasons as
Yep.
to why they didn't do that the whole season. But in like January-ish, they had Scotty as like that in that Domas role where he was just this handoff guy, and he was like locked on to Gary, and it was like Gary just having these like the easiest looks he got in all year before he was injured and whatnot. But yeah, I think if Darko is gonna focus more around that and have Gary and have a Gradey, and if you have them both on the court, I think it makes life easier for Gary too because now he's not the only shooter is and the defense has more to keep track of. So he'll be able to find better shots, both outside and inside of the arc. I know I actually really liked what Gary did last year, where he added this little push shot to his game, where when he got pushed down the line, he was able to, just take advantage of it. He was pretty efficient at those. Like I think Gary could have a nice season next year if he's still around. I don't know if he's going to be there day one, but
I mean,
if
it
he
sounds
is,
like it
yeah,
sounds like he wants to be. I mean,
yeah,
whether he is or not is a whole other. I guess it's not all in his decision, but yeah, I think yeah, I agree. Like Gary improved offensively. I noticed he did more drives. I've always been like my main issue, quote unquote issue, with Gary is his ability to get to the rim. But
yeah,
I think if he can develop that mid range game, the floater game, which he as you said he started to, I think then
yeah.
like that releases like some of the pressure to be able to need to do that. And that's why like the guards that I was looking at, I'm like, who can get to the rim and score at the rim? I'm like Cason Wallace, Kobe Buffkin, right? Like I'm just like
We haven't had
um
that guy in a long time.
no, it would be nice.
It would be nice.
One day. Because yeah, like that having that first step is really nice. My secret or under the radar person is Koloko. I think
Oh, I like
Koloko's
that.
yeah, I think Koloko's gonna have a
I like
big
that.
year. I think the more space that you can put around him, the better. Because I think obviously he needs to never skip leg day. I think I think it's with him, it's more core strength. Because I've noticed even I'm embarrassed to say I watch 905 games on YouTube, full games. Sorry.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
uh,
more than I ever did.
yeah,
I'll
I
tell
listen.
you.
I don't watch all of the games. Putting that out there, but I do watch some of the games. Um, but yeah, I think his read of the game is really, really, it's really high level, and I think he actually showed a few passing chops, especially I think in that Miami game where he swung. This is like the first, yeah, because he didn't play the second one. The first Miami game where he was at the think he was around the nail, and then he swung the ball across his body to the other side of the court to where Flynn was in the corner. Um, Now, if you could do that with Grady, that
That's cash.
is yeah. So and for those of you who are interested, there my first video is Coloco. I did cover that game as well as the Bulls game, so definitely people check that out. Link in the description down below. So yeah, other than that, yeah, I think I was really happy. You did mention roster construction stuff. I think we covered Grady really well.
Yeah.
um I guess my only thing is in terms of Pascal, before we get into Noel really, really quickly, because I think that's going to be just a shorter conversation. Um, who would you like expect to get back from a Pascal deal, or who would you
Well,
want? I guess those are
I
two
would.
different
Who I want is Scoot Henderson. Like,
questions.
I,
Yep.
I I know that's who everybody wants, and the Blazers have him, and I don't know what's going on there. Like, there's new updates about nothing every hour, but like, we we don't know what Dame's thinking or what the Blazers are thinking. I don't know if that's totally off the board yet, but if there's I don't think there would be a more perfect like segue into a new era than flipping Pascal into like a potential franchise guy like Scoot Henderson. I, I don't know if that's likely at all. Actually, I would say a Pascal trade is unlikely just from what we know right now. But yeah, the other trade, I was a fan of the Atlanta trade. I don't know if I like it as much now that we got Gradey because now a guy like AJ Griffin is kind of there's a lot of overlap there, and I know there's never been a coach who's ever been like, oh no, we have too much shooting on our team, but there's some other skill sets that might be missing. Maybe if you can buy AJ as like an interior guy, like he had some nice moves this year. Like uh
He's also
if
good
you're
in
a rap,
transition if you remember the game.
he's very nice. He's very good at catching lobs too. If you're,
Yes. Yes.
but yeah,
Yes. Jeez.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man.
AJ is a guy I think who could be an all star down the line. So that would be the other name in terms of guys that we know have been interested in Pascal.
Yes.
Besides that, I don't know if there's like another team that would like really want him. Like I know there was some stuff with Sacramento, but I don't know. There's not really anything I want from Sacramento, like unless you're a big
Yeah, and if they're not even willing to move off of like Keegan Murray, it's like, what are we doing here?
yeah. It's like what are we doing here? Yeah. But yeah, the biggest reason I think something will probably happen is because of the cap.
Yes.
If Fred walks, then I guess nothing really needs to happen. But if you're just on this team without Fred VanVleet and I don't know, you sign like whoever like you can in free agency to replace him. Like I don't know if it's a very good team, in which case I don't know where you go from there. But yeah, if either Fred walks or they have to trade Pascal or OG, just because every player on the Raptors is getting a raise right now, and
Yeah.
it's very expensive for a team that's not winning a lot. Like maybe they start winning next year, and all this sounds really dumb, but I'm just saying, if they want to get ahead of the cap situation, I think trading Pascal is the best way to go about it, just in terms of what you would get back, unless there's like some great OG trade out there that maybe you explore that instead. But you would still have the same roster construction problems because you'd be down OG, and I don't know if you get shooters back or whatever. But the roster construction problems that we keep referencing is just Pascal, Scotty, and Pirtle. That's a lot. Those are three really, really good players. And like you want good players on your team, but they kind of make each other worse, and that's just really hard to deal with. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we got to address.
I mean, for me, I always thought that Pascal and Barnes can work, and I still believe that they can. But then you enter in a new challenger kind of a thing,
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, now it's like this is very difficult to make it work with Pirtle. It's not impossible, I'm sure.
I'm sure it can work.
I'm sure that there's more brilliant minds than yourself working
Yeah,
on it right now on Raptor staff. But I think it's very very difficult to make it work. You said something that I do want to talk about really quickly, which is that is not Pascal's fault in terms of the shooting. I don't know
yeah.
why, but people they're like, well, it's almost like it's Pascal's fault, and I'm like, I'm not trying to play the blame game, but I'm like, he did shoot like in bad spacing at times 34-35% this year, and then it dipped
Mhm.
down to about 33. I'm not putting it on Barnes. Like I said, you expect Barnes to struggle, but it's like you can't put that all on Pascal while also playing him the amount of minutes that he was being played.
Pascal
Um,
is the victim here. It's
yes,
not his fault. He's the victim.
yes. So it's like it's one thing that I think if and I agree, I think that a Pascal trade is going to be very difficult to pull off, especially for the price that a Masai would ask for. I think OG, especially with the financial situation and how much he is worth, is probably worth it. OG at $37 million is a whole different other discussion. We don't
Yeah.
have to get into that today, but it is a more difficult discussion.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that there was one other thing, but it's slipping my mind right now, actually, unfortunately. But getting into Noel, the next guy, the guy who did the no look, argue with my coach, and toss a pass,
Amazing play.
amazing play. Now, I will kind of preface this by saying I don't think that I think he's going to be mainly focused on the G League roster,
Mhm.
but I do think that we need a solid point guard in the development pipeline who can help
Mhm.
initiate the offense on the 905. You want to give me some thoughts as to the young man?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like do a deep dive on him because he wasn't really
I hear you.
rap like yeah, he wasn't really a first round guy. So yeah, but we all saw him in the tournament, and he had that, I think, the record game for assists with 19. So he's obviously he's very good. He makes like crazy passes all the time. He's 5'8". There's going to be a lot of struggles with him just in terms of being able to score in the NBA or defend in the NBA. So, but I don't know if that's really ever going to be on the table for him. If it is, then I'm rooting for him to to pull that off. It's always cool to see somebody like normal size just doing well in the league. But I love what you said, which was you need some sort of organization just for, yeah, when your guys aren't organized. There's like like we have summer league in a couple of weeks. You're gonna have Gradey down there, you're gonna have Koloko down there. I don't know if you'll have Doughton down there. I don't know if he's going to go because he's a bit of a vet, but you need a player like Marquis, like, just really helps just because they're essentially playing pickup. There's not a lot of time to just figure out the offense and whatnot. And we've seen some really ugly basketball in summer league, just in terms of
Yep.
just it's what happens when you have like just weird like 20 wings on one team and like one big, and it's just you can make the game watchable. You can put the guys in.
Watchable. Man, this is the bar that we're going to. It's just like,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, we can
I
somewhat
mean, watch
mildly
summer league.
enjoy.
Enjoy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can put the guys in the spots they need to be to develop more. Like, yeah, so I think that's where Marquis' value will be mostly. I think he probably has a bit of off court value as well, just in terms of being like a really hardworking guy and like sort of a leader off the court. So that'll be nice to have in the locker room. But yeah, he's just I like the pick. Well, it's not a pick. He was an undrafted signing. There's not You can't really complain about that. I think in terms of just having it, just a floor general on the development system, like you mentioned, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory, and you can make fun of my theory if you want, but now I haven't seen him play at this level yet. But in general, if he is able to, um, I think that the shorter players that are really able to make it, they are some of the most. In fact, I would argue like I don't know why I was doing this like a year ago, but watching Nate Robinson tape, and I was like,
Oh,
Nate Robinson is like one of the most talented players I've ever seen because it's
it's
just like
crazy.
he just had to be like his skill, his
Yeah,
ability to dribble. Like forget about the defensive side for a second, but it's just like his ability to like break down anyone, and they were like he did not have the length on them was just like unmatched. It's
it's a
like
great player to watch.
if he was like 6'5", you know what I mean? Like it's like you're talking about like a
Yeah,
whole other dude. So yeah, I really hope the best for him, but I am also really excited that we have someone who can kind of you know provide some sort of structure to those units and to those that development pipeline. We haven't really had that, to be perfectly honest, and it's something that's needed. We'll kind of like go closer to the close of this by just really briefly talking about OG. So, I've been a little bit tough on OG lately. He's one of my, I like all these players, but I really like OG as well. Um, in terms of his offensive side of the ball, the numbers haven't been good from isolation stats. Now, obviously, you would expect that Darko is not going to be an isolation coach.
yeah.
You would hope. So I guess my thing is that there's a whole bunch of other things in terms of Gary Trent being promised a bigger role and stuff like that. How does that happen? But in terms of OG, am I missing something? Because I feel like he's from an offensive side of things. without him really fixing the balance. I feel like there might be limitations to how much you can stretch that in terms of like his I don't know, bag or however you want to call it.
Well, the thing with him is just the pull up just hasn't come. I don't know if it will come at this point,
Mhm.
but that's just the main thing that's missing with his game is just being able to go from, when he's cut off, it doesn't go well usually. he uh he has some balance issues that they haven't been able to fix. I don't know if they can be fixed. I'm not like a biomechanics guy like that, but yeah, he's really good at getting low, and that's why he's such a valuable defender. It's just he's able to get super low, but it's when he comes back up is there's issues there. You can see it in the pull up. You can see it on his drives. I think for him, he could also benefit a lot from just a more free flowing offense. Like he had to work really hard for a lot of his points. Just in terms of having to like, and I know he wants to do this too, so he's not like blame free of like he wants to be that guy or he wants to try being that guy, but just
Yeah.
like posting up little guys or trying to like isolate on defenders. And he always has like a couple possessions where he looks really really good, and you wonder like, hey, maybe that's something. But at this point in his career, he is like what, I think 25 now, maybe turning 26 this year. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition yet. It probably would have by now if it was going to happen. So, but I think with OG, I think he's fine as he is. I think he's like probably like a top 50 player, just being OG, being able to hit the threes from anywhere on the court. He can drive a closeout. He can make a decent passes. He's obviously a super valuable defender. I think that is a player you want on your team,
He
just
reminds me
regardless.
of Ron Artest minus the bows, you know,
Yeah,
the but
nice guy, Ron. But yeah,
yeah.
that's a guy you want on your team.
Yes.
So yeah, and he fits like either way. Like if you're gonna reconfigure the team around Scotty, then you want OG there. You want OG taking the hard defensive assignments because
Yes.
that's not Scotty's game really. You want OG being that cutter, that shooter off of like movement or whatever that actions that Scotty's going to be part of. Like you want OG there. I don't know if you want OG dribbling a lot. Hopefully he comes out with a pull up jumper next year, and everyone's like, wow, he's finally that all star. And you know, I don't know. I was really excited this year when I think in the beginning of the year he always has like a month or so where he averages 20, and everyone's like, oh, might be something. It was, all the Celtics are like, oh, we'll see you
It's
at the All Star
happening.
game. Like, yeah, yeah, like you have Jason Tatum in the media, like, oh, I'll see OG at the All Star game, and everyone's
Yeah.
excited. And then, like, and the thing with him is that he always gets injured. Like, he builds up some momentum. Like, it's like, okay, OG's playing really great. And, okay, now he's injured. Now he's
Sorry
out
to
for
put
a
Beyond
month.
on blast, but he calls it a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
that always kind of ruins his flow. Is just he gets into a rhythm and then he's injured and then he's coming back from an injury and like it just keeps happening. It's like that's just tough. Like there's nobody to blame for that really. It's just tough.
I mean, I think for me that it's two things. I think maybe if Darko can convince him for some more buy-in, um, sorry, in a different system, I think that would be interesting because I agree with you. Sorry, I think he is like he can be the third most important guy on a championship team,
Exactly.
right? Like it's like he plays a very physical style on both ends of the ball.
Yeah.
On offense, he's sometimes like a wrecking ball in a good way, and like you can tell he just wears down his opponents, and that's very valuable. But I don't know if we waited too long to figure out a way to do that in a way that makes him happy. But we'll to be determined.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, I think that really like covers the gambit of things. We could probably talk here forever about hoops, of course. Your name
Of
Hoop
course.
Goops, so of course. But yeah, hopefully I don't sound too crazy with some of my theories. I will say this, in terms of balance, I do get concerned, and I started doing some research on this. I haven't finished it, but I'm really curious that I think it's harder to change balance once your bones have fused, especially with your hips.
I have no idea.
So yeah, fair enough. So,
I, you know more than me, man. Yeah,
fair enough. So yeah, it's something I'm looking into because I think from a flexibility standpoint, it's difficult,
yeah,
you know, to really significantly change that to a certain point. But with that being said, it has been here. We're on Basketball Rewind. Is there anything that you want to plug? I know you actually do some writing. I think is it on Medium or Medium?
yeah. I just put it on my my account. It's basically like a Google Docs thing. So I'm not I don't I just like I just kind of go with the flow with it. So there's some scouting reports on my page if you want to read them. There's only I only did Kobe and Keontae. I might write something on Grady later, but I'm in my take a break from basketball phase right now. So yeah,
Hey man, I feel that there's Raptors fans everywhere are talking up a storm. I'm fairly certain that there is a space on Twitter right now where people are it is civil war there. Uh, and sometimes these conversations get kind of tiresome. Hopefully this wasn't one of them. But yeah, I mean it was really good to have you, man, and good to have you on. I'm sure. I mean we've been talking for a bit of time. So
yeah,
it's definitely good to talk hoops with someone else. Not that there's any shade against my usual guests. And yeah, and that's been about it. So people, I'm going to put it with your permission, of course, his information in the link down below. Definitely check him out, give him a follow. Really good follow for sure. And then again, in terms of basketball rewind, just so people know, I now that you know, I guess there is free agency coming up, but other than the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, I will be not posting multiple times in a week. Unless something significant happens. So just giving people a kind of a little bit of a you know, a heads up that I will be slowing down because I have my own life that I am trying to get ahead in. So yeah. So yeah, with
absolutely.
that, exactly, important stuff. So with that being said, take care, everyone, and peace.